Hey everyone, welcome to another lesson. So today we're going to talk about creating some more interesting voicings and some modal voicings for the 2-5-1 progression, our typical 2-5-1 in the key of C. So we have our D minor 7, G dominant 7, and then the C major 7, right? So 2, 5, and 1. The first step is understanding the chord scale for each of them. For the D minor 7th, we got D Dorian. For the G dominant 7th, we got G mixolydian. And then for the C major 7th, we got C Ionian or your C major scale. Let's start with, let's treat each chord separately in the sense, let's do it one by one. Let's start with the D minor 7th chord, right? So the most common D minor 7 chord that people play is this drop 2 version of it, right? The root inversion drop 2. So we have a root 5th flat 7 minor 3rd and then just another 5th on top, right? So there is some room for modification over there. What if I choose to replace this 5th with a natural 6? That already creates some interesting vibes in there, doesn't it? What if I replace this 5th with a 4th? There you go. Doesn't it sound interesting? What if I just play these three notes? The flat 7, the 3rd, the minor 3rd that is, and the natural 6. See, that sounds like Dorian, doesn't it? Even if I don't play the D note, it still sounds Dorian. Let's go for the G chord, right? So this is the most popular voicing, like one of the first G dominant 7 voicings that we learned. What if we try using a dominant 7 sus4 with the 13? Right? So usually you got this. So you got a root 5th, flat 7, major 3rd, another 5th, and then the root again. What if I replace this 5th with the 13 and then the 3rd with the perfect 4th, making it a dominant 7 sus4 with the 13? Right? And in fact, I can use this to create some inner movement. In fact, I can sort of try that kind of inner movement over that D Dorian. And then just maybe resolve to a C major 6. So I play that major 7th and then I play the major 6. So that creates some inner movement and makes your chord progression and the harmony in general a bit more interesting, doesn't it? Let's hear it again. You can hear some inner movements over there, and all of these inner movements are diatonic. Nothing that I played over there is non-diatonic. Every bit of it is based out of the D Dorian, the G mixolydian, and the C Ionian. And if you think about it, they're literally all three of them are nothing but the C major scale by itself. The D Dorian is nothing but a C major scale starting from the 2nd degree, and the G mixolydian is nothing but the same C major scale starting from the 5th degree. So there is a relative aspect to it, right? So the D Dorian is the relative Dorian and the G mixolydian is the relative mixolydian, right? So yeah, if we can create these interesting voicings without even adding more interesting things like right, that would be pretty non-diatonic over there. Right? Those are some non-diatonic stuff, but then even the diatonic stuff by themselves sound so good. Let's try it in this part of the fretboard as well. So we got a D minor 7 here. I can add the 9, right? And then I got the G dominant right here. I can add a 9 to it. And then resolve to a C major 7 right there. Or I could even resolve to a C major 13th. If I want to create a bit more drama, especially if you're playing the guitar as a solo instrument, you could even sometimes resort to a C major 7 sharp 11, right? It's cool, man. Like this, the non-diatonics, all that tension that it creates, like it's just so cool. The diatonic stuff by itself is pretty cool as well. Let's try to explore some more of that. I can see this. Right. So the more you visualize these chord scales around the fretboard and try to relate them to the chord, making sure that you are keeping specific notes from those chords outlined and emphasized. For instance, over that D chord, I'm always trying to keep the D, the G, and the C outlined, just so that when you're hearing me play all of these voicings, you can still hear the context behind it. Because if I don't emphasize on these things, then these little voicings that I'm playing could sound like completely different chords. For instance, that particular thing that I played earlier on over the D minor. If I do not play that D, this also happens to be an F major 7 chord. Right? So from different contexts, it can be different thing. So that's why it's important to try and emphasize on the more important notes, like in this case D, G, and C. Right. So now I'll just sort of play around with them, and I think the most important thing to keep in mind whenever you're learning any kind of a concept, is to create something with it. In my case, I like sitting down and sort of just improvising around with it, you know. And sometimes what happens is you end up creating or like coming up with an idea which you can add to your vocabulary. For instance, this thing that I did earlier on, right? This is like a mix of visualizing it and also keeping track of the whole harmonic motion that's going on over here, right? If I have to go into a theory, technically I'm just using an F augmented chord here, and I'm using that sharp fifth of that F augmented chord to target the root of the 2 chord, right? And then over the G chord, I'm using the E minor triad, right? And I'm using again the root of that E minor to target the flat 7 of the G chord, and then resolving to the 5th of the C major 7 chord. You can also play the C major 9 here, remove the 3rd and replace it with the 9, right? I was just playing 5th and then the root 5th and major 7th in the lower voice. But yeah, you can just do that. You can create a bit more drama by ending with a major 7 sharp 5, right? this is going to be very interesting because you got a 5 and a sharp 5 within the same chord. So it sort of breaks your typical harmonic rules. The rule is essentially to not have a minor second interval within the chord, which is why you're not going to hear too many people play a major 7th with an 11th. Right? Like, in case you're wondering, this is what it sounds like. So, according to traditional harmony, that is very dissonant, and yeah, I can see that. But I guess, like, depending on the context and depending on how you end up playing that note, it could sound pretty good. Right? In this particular case, I'm not really digging that sound much, but when I am playing this minor second interval, I am really liking that sound. Right? So now let's try another thing. This is the first voicing that we created, the D minor 7 with the natural 6 over there. Right? And then instead of my normal dominant 7, what I'll do is I'll add a dominant 7 with a flat 13. Right? Or you can also just like add an A augmented chord. Right? And then result to a C6-9. Playing this C6-9 from the perspective of solo improvisation, solo guitar improvisation, it actually opens up another world of possibility for you. Because the chord is so open-ended, you can actually fiddle with the 4th, right? Instead of your natural 4th, you can add the sharp 4 over there. Since you don't have a 5th over there either, you can actually add a sharp 5. Right? That sounds interesting, doesn't it? Let's try fiddling around with these chords and the chord scale. Let's try something this side. But anyway, the voicings are everywhere. If you can visualize the chord, you can find voicings. So yeah, there were quite a few outside stuff there. Keep exploring, play around with it. If you come up with an idea that you like, consider practicing it again or relearning it. Maybe learn it to a point where you haven't perfected it, but just to the point where it's instilled in your muscle memory so that you can actually embellish it whenever you need to. Right? that's how you really build some good vocabulary for yourself and some unique vocabulary, and eventually you reach a point where you create your own sound, so to speak, if that's what you're looking into. But even if you're not looking into that, this kind of a method is very useful if you're trying to play some jazz, some fusion, or if you're just, in general trying to explore harmony. So yeah, the guitar is a very expressive instrument. It's a very versatile instrument, and there's a world of possibilities around it. And every guitar player, the hands are different. Everyone has a different taste. Everybody's chasing their sound. So if you understand the language of music, it will only help you create your own sound and sort of further develop yourself as a musician and as a guitar player. So yeah, practice, play, learn, explore, and most importantly, have fun. If you don't have fun, I don't know how much you're going to improve. But yeah, anyway, thank you for watching. If you wish to take private lessons from me, one on one online lessons, the details are in the description below. You can email me or you can check out my website. Consider subscribing to my blogs and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. If you liked this video, consider sharing it so that I can reach more people. And yeah, email me for private lessons and I shall get back to you as soon as I can with the pricing and the details. Thank you.